All right. Looks like Fred may have stepped away for a little bit. So I'll kind of cover some of the marketing front here, and then maybe I'll have him do the illustration stuff. Any of you guys, like show of hands, were on the new rules of money training that we did last night for the Shield? Okay. So you had a few of you guys. So um I'm thinking I'll break down a little bit of the buyer psychology of that and realistically why most people's marketing doesn't really work in general. So how many of you guys have seen those kind of like ads or really any post that somebody's made where it's like 401k on the left and then it's like IUL on the right? And maybe they'll even do like, red X's or all the bad stuff with 401, 401k, and it's all like green with IUL. So in terms of marketing in its simplest format, I want you to just kind of take that picture in your head and apply that to everything, right? Because that's what you want to be clear in the prospect's mind. You could argue some of those posts are a little bit like non-compliant or whatever, but the point is that basically the general consumer marketplace, they don't understand anything about these products. They're not warmed up enough to realize the value of what you do, right? And so what you want is you want them to want what you have before you present it. So even if you present something as clearly as, hey, it's the left side versus the right side, clearly this one's better, they kind of need to be educated on each of the bullet points in between. So what we've developed with the financial shield, it started with the new rules of money a few years ago, is we take people through each step and we kind of indoctrinate them to want what we want them to end up wanting when we pitch them, right? Now, it's not necessarily meant to make somebody want it that doesn't have, this the thought process of you can't say the right thing to the wrong person still applies here. Part of the questioning and part of just going through the process of presenting it to them and having the conversation is just weeding out the people that aren't gonna vibe with it. I mean, if you get somebody that's been super indoctrinated by like Dave Ramsey type philosophy on, even if you slow down and you try to educate them on taxes and you try to educate them on risk and you try to educate them on living benefits, they still may not really resonate with what you have to say. And you're probably going to pick up that on that along the way. It's not going to just take you by surprise at the end where they're like, well, I don't know about IUL. You're probably going to get some resistance as soon as you're going into tax free, as soon as you're going into risk free. Does that kind of make sense why I'm saying this? So what most people, and this is really what you guys have understand. How many of you guys are like have really seen a lot of my marketing on Facebook? Like you've been following me for weeks or months. So essentially what I'm doing with that is all of these little feeler posts that I'm putting out, all these posts they're all tiny puzzle pieces to a big agenda. They're like, breadcrumb trails to the main thing. So I know that if I get somebody in on an entry point for any of those things, whether it's social media, whether it's lead generation, whether it's closing an IUL deal, whether it's structuring a case the right way, all of those roads lead to Rome. They're all just different pieces to the same conversation for the same final outcome. It's like, hey, I can help you get to 100K a month without ads or whatever. I can help you build a team. Well, if I know if somebody opts in for a sales script, then probably they want to close more deals, or maybe they're not confident about their close ratio, or maybe they're just curious what my script looks like. It doesn't really matter, but I'm getting a pain point that I want on that call, right? If it's leads, then a lot of the stuff around social media that I do is I don't want somebody to just get on a call and say they want leads. I want them to get on a call saying they want leads using my particular system. So what a lot of insurance agents aren't doing is they're just not thinking about their marketing from the same standpoint as like training their people to understand what tax free means and what the value of it is by having this breadcrumb trail really developed for the tax thing, having a breadcrumb trail really developed for the living benefits side. And that's kind of what we did is with the financial shield, we just positioned everything to where no matter what level of intelligence or sophistication they are about all these things, we start over, from kindergarten and educate them through a process of basically multiple presentations. Now, if you begin to go even earlier in your marketing and do your social media the way that I've kind of described it, you'll have people that are even more qualified when they sit down on the first meeting. But the reason why the shield is working so well is because we're just not assuming anything. We're just taking someone back to square one on the first meeting. I mean, there's advisors that I've gotten into the into the company that have been doing this 10, 20, 30 years that have never seen anything like what we do, right? And so everyone follows the same step-by-step process. And when you have someone that doesn't follow that process, that's the first indication that they may not be a good fit. You don't even really need to go further into the process if you don't want to. And so what that will allow you to do is save your time and only deal with the most qualified, most ideal people, not just from a financial standpoint of like, hey, they have more money to put into this thing every month, or from a healthy standpoint, like obviously if they can't qualify for the coverage, how many of you guys think it's annoying? You got the lead vendors selling you leads and you call them and you can't do anything for them. Like, what the heck? It's cool that they want the thing, but in terms of helping you for your company and for, being a viable sales opportunity, it's not really useful for you. So one thing that I like to do with social media is just target people that are younger, that are more likely to be healthy. It's one of the perks you get from being willing to put the extra squeeze in and the extra juice into the front end, is that you get to choose who your leads are because you're going to take them through the full conversation. So if there's anything I can impart to you about marketing in general, it's that you should take full responsibility for the entire funnel. Don't try to delegate part of the funnel to somebody else until you've already done it all yourself. Then you can start to delegate one piece of it out to an employee or to an agency, something like that. So most people's full system is broken. And when we talk about structuring IULs, that's the main thing that agents are getting wrong when they're structuring products for clients as well. Is the first thing they're losing on is strategy. What are we aiming at? What are we trying to do for the client? Right? It's not really so much about the product. There's only so many buttons that you can push in the software. I mean, it probably feels like you're doing the right thing every time. But if you're not aiming for a certain strategy, then that's where you're kind of losing, right? So there was a deal that I did with John about 2 years ago. It was $1 million deal. And it just so happened this guy was exiting his company, had a couple $1 million, and his business partner had a couple $1 million for his part of the business. And the first question we asked him was like, okay, man, so you're like 42 years old. Like, what are some of the goals that you have? What are we trying to do? Right? I didn't have anything about insurance, IUL. This was somebody that already reached out to me because they were a referral for infinite banking concepts, right? But I still took him back to kindergarten. I still took him back to, hey, what do you want to do? What are you looking for? Right? And then just vomit on him like, hey, we got this infinite banking thing. It's really cool. No, it's like, hey, what are we looking to do for you? Why is that important to you? So, a lot of times, if any of you guys have been on a sales call with me for the coaching thing, I don't just pitch you my thing, right? Even those of you that have been following me for a while, I don't just drop the bomb, be like, here's what it is. It's so amazing. Here's what it can do for you. The first thing that I do before I'm pitching anybody anything, before I get to the close, is why do you need me to do it? Why can't you do it on your own? I'm going to get them to sell to me, right? Otherwise, there's no business me stepping into their life and having to hold them accountable and do all sorts of things. And when you're selling the shield to somebody, it's the same thing. This isn't an IUL, write the application and then you're done. This thing has to be serviced. I mean, if they're going to open a bank, they're not going to be able to take loans from the portal for the first year. So you're going to hold their hand and do that? There's a reason why John likes to take a split when he does all the work, because it's not a one and done conversation. So there's different pieces to understand, and we won't be able to go through all of that today, but I've been kind of talking a lot here. Let me know if this makes sense, if this has been helpful so far, and kind of what questions are coming up for you guys. I'll just kind of hang out here for 50 seconds or so before I go into the next rant.
Nick, we've had some meetings already, and I appreciate you so much, bro. And I've learned a lot from Nick and John himself. And so I think I was expressing the other day. Now it's like, okay, great. I want to learn more about how to market this stuff on social media to be able to get that earning of people to message me and have them come to me versus me approaching them. what do you suggest for those tips?
Well, the first thing is you got to talk about what people want, right? So for the most part, I'm going to simplify it for you guys. Humans are pretty simple. None of you guys, I mean, all of you guys probably want to make more money in your business, but you don't want a bunch of money piled at the end of your desk with some googly eyes on it because that doesn't do anything for your life. It's how you're going to use the money to improve these different areas of your life, right? Well, it's the same thing for your clients. And unfortunately, a lot of the insurance industry is just very jargon heavy. It's very insurance agent talk, and that doesn't vibe well with the consumer because they don't understand the value of these things. It's why part of the industry's marketing plan is recruiting so much because other agents are some of the best clients for the carriers because they understand the value of things already. And because they're going to spend more time around the products, they're going to self-educate themselves and become a better client along the way. So it's really facilitating that person's journey. And so the number one thing that I do with anybody is who are you targeting? Because, what I would say to make you a qualified lead for what I do is way different than what I would say to a greenie that's unlicensed or somebody that's never heard of insurance before, right? So the two things that I look at for client attraction and marketing in general is going to be how do we optimize you and how do we optimize the other person? The rest of it is just the funnel. The rest of it is just the steps that you take somebody through, right? So if we simplify that into marketing language, it's like, who are you targeting? What's all the things that makes them tick? And who are you? What makes you tick? Some of you guys aren't going to want to get on video. I'll get on video every week, right? So if I give you the best strategy in the world for marketing, but you don't want to do it, it's not going to do anything for you. The best content strategy, the best marketing campaign is the one you're actually going to do and be consistent with. And that's going to look different for each and every one of you guys. Now, I know that that's not, probably what some of you guys wanted to hear, but the truth is the people that have a lot of success with marketing and sales in general, they've been working at it a while so that they could customize it for themselves, right? Some of you guys will get on the phone all day long, but you'll never door knock, right? And then Ben will door knock all day long, right? For me, I'm not going to get on the phones. I'm not opposed to it, but I don't need to anymore. I got thousands of people that I can hit up whenever I want. I can get 5 meetings today in probably an hour. Some of them are going to be more valuable than others. I could probably go get 5 people to go get 5 meetings each for me and have 25 meetings today. So that's a system that I built, right? I built leverage by knowing, having a clear picture of what I wanted that to look like. And that's what you're looking for when you ask someone about their goals and what they want. The number one problem why most people are stuck in anything, whether it's financial services product or growing their business, is because they don't even know what they want. They don't know what it looks like. They can't accurately describe it or describe why that's more valuable to them than what they're doing right now. For example, some of you guys probably don't understand, the social media bit. Okay, so you're saying to break all this into micro breadcrumb trails and all this stuff. Isn't that more work than just picking up the phone and talking to somebody for 30 seconds? Yeah, but if you're talking to the wrong person, you just wasted that 30 seconds and you wasted the money you spent to get them in the funnel. So it's more about making sure that everything aligns, right? So for me, I can spend an hour mapping out this customer journey, and then I know every single thing that I make for the next 50 weeks is for sure going to be on target. It's going to do exactly what I wanted it to do. And I get to control the speed at which, how fast people move through that funnel. It might take them 12 months and be automated, or I can get on the phone with somebody and talk to them for 45 minutes, and they can go from 0 to 100. And it's just my choice of how I want to spend my time that day. So in terms of, speaking to the consumer about insurance, the first thing is don't make it all about insurance because it's not going to land for them. They're going to think about you as the Allstate guy because that's all they know. Okay, it's for whenever something bad happens. Well, nothing bad's going to happen tomorrow, and I got to pay my rent next week. So I'm not worried about that. Now, if you're targeting, the wealthy people, they're thinking a little bit different than that. They're not maybe worried about paying the rent tomorrow, but then you also have a different problem that shows up. There's less of those people to go around, and you got to find a way to get in front of them. So, how many of you guys were on the call that I did a couple weeks ago where I covered the only 3 things you can do to generate a lead? if we just boil it down to its simplest stuff. Do you guys want to see that again?
Yeah, heck yeah.
Let me see.
Just to be honest, Nick, I'm like way confused on anything anybody just said.
Cool. Let's grab something that you're not confused about because that's how the human mind works. Let's go to something simple you can grab for footing from and then branch out from there so I can give you a better picture.
Okay,
Have you ever
myself,
sold an IUL before?
nope.
Okay.
I, in theory, know what they are, but as in for system wise, I don't understand exactly how they work, like
Okay.
in the system wise, to
Cool.
actually
That's
write one. In other words,
perfect. We'll go to square one. We'll go to kindergarten. So Zoom's being weird with the whiteboard. I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm not the host or something.
Oh, we can, yeah, I don't know. Let me make you host. How's that sound?
Yeah, that might help.
Okay.
It's just giving me it's not
Yeah,
giving me the blank whiteboard option. It's giving me all
let me see if I can't do something here. Okay, Nick. Yeah.
report.
In the meantime, Nick is right now he's really talking about marketing and all this, how to get them. But we're going to get into the structure, given what an IUL really is. He'll get to that in a little bit. Him and Fred, but if we got to understand, what an IUL is to be able to market it. But he's talking about right now how to get in there. Man, I'm starting to find you, Nick.
Well, here's the thing. You could have 40 years experience in this space, and if
Mhm.
you don't have anywhere to go and anyone to talk to, it
Yeah,
doesn't
exactly.
matter.
Yep.
The
Okay.
first thing you got to do is you got to start getting people to want to talk to you.
Okay. Nick, you are host. And then if you ever need me to get on there, I'll just switch it over back to me.
Sure. Yeah,
Okay.
it's just not giving me the normal whiteboard
Oh,
thing
okay.
that I
I'm
use.
not.
It's kind of give me some templates and stuff here. I've never seen it do this before, but
Okay.
I'll work with it. Let me pick one here. Mm, I could pull up a Google Doc, but then it's going to load really slow. Well, that's all right. For those of you got a piece of paper, we can do it like this.
Yeah.
So, and we'll kind of get off the lead gen topic here in a minute, but the first thing that you can do to generate a lead is you can have a conversation with someone. Anything that you see these companies marketing to you for, like, hey, I got leads, I got a system, we do SEO, we do radio ads, anything, it's all based on these principles. So the first thing you can do is you can have a conversation with somebody. The benefit of this is that if there's any kind of confusion, you can just keep talking to them until they're not confused. It has the highest chance of you closing the person if you have the right person there, right? The problem is it takes your time. I mean, none of you can probably run 30 meetings in one day, even if you could get 30 meetings. And so what does it matter? The goal, and that goes back to the strategy thing that I was talking about. What is the goal? What are you trying to achieve? Well, you probably shouldn't try to get 30 meetings a day unless you're trying to get 30 meetings so that you can give 5 of them to 6 of your guys. That makes more sense. Then you would need a system to run 30 meetings a day, right? So most of you guys aren't there yet. So the second thing you can do is you can use a tool or you can use an asset to have the conversation for you. So that could look like having a business card that you just put in people, you give to someone and you walk off. You put it in their mailbox, a brochure, one of those, brochures that advertises the $5 pizza, right? That people leave in your, leave at your doorstep or something. It could be a social media post. It could be an ad, right? It doesn't really matter. It could be your website with information on it, but the tool has the conversation with the person for you. The problem is that if you can't convert somebody with a conversation, spending an hour with them, how are you going to make a tool so good that it's going to do it without you in the room, without making them confused? And it's going to create urgency. Because a lot of people could look at the business card or the website that you make and be like, that's cool. And they'll stick it in their pocket for later. They're not going to act on it right then and there. You're not going to be able to create the type of intent you're probably looking for. And I'm not saying don't do it, but you probably want to learn how to have that type of conversation so you can use the language that gets people to kind of throw money at you first. That's going to give you more leverage. some of you guys are a little bit more advanced. It's fine to, kind of go into step two a little bit more. But the benefit of using number two over number one is that you get to focus on distributing that asset in front of more eyeballs instead of spending your time talking to more people. Now that has its own systems and things that you need to kind of master in order to distribute it. I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole with that one. Can anybody guess what the third one is? The only other thing you can do to get leads besides having a conversation or using a tool to have that conversation for you?
Buy them.
Well, you can buy them, but that actually is kind of the right answer, but there's a more simplified answer of it. So if you guys have seen John's thing about the Family Feud, there's answers on the board. What do you think the number one answer is? Biome is one of the answers because it falls in the same category. But what is buying them an example of? It's getting somebody else to do it for you, right?
Yeah, partnerships.
Yeah, so you can hire somebody else to talk to someone for you or to distribute an asset for you, right? So if you use an employee and you already have something that works, that's probably the most reliable way to do it. If you pay a company like mine to do it for you, then you're kind of hoping that that company does a good job, and they'll do even better if you have, something that's already solid for them to use as a footing. But that's really the only thing you can do. And so I suggest people start with number one, which is why you want to get the language down pat. Because, if you're sitting across from someone who's healthy, who has money, and they got there based on one of the breadcrumb trails of like living benefits, tax-free retirement, not having risk or loss in their portfolio. There's probably 15 or 20 that we could go through, but if they're there for a reason, right? I mean, the reason could be they just like you and they want to hear about what you're doing, but then you got a little bit more talking to do. You got a little bit more conversation to qualify them, not financially and from a health standpoint, but mentally. You guys don't deal with this as much as I do or in the same way as I have with the coaching program, but I don't like working with victim-minded people. I don't want to just work with anybody who wants me to get them leads. I want people to take responsibility and do certain things and are willing to pay me more money for the same amount of work, right? So that's a certain type of person. That's a mental state. So I'm qualifying someone psychologically, not just financially. Can they do the thing on paper, right? Do I vibe with the person? Do I want to work with this person? And when you start doing annuities and IULs, that type of stuff comes into play a lot more than when you're selling simplified issue stuff. So, let's go into kindergarten with IUL. Like what the heck is an IUL? Let me see if it'll let me do the doc here because it's going to be helpful if I can kind of draw it out. What does this do? Can I type under this? Cool. So ignore all the rest of this up top. Maybe I can delete it. Cool. Learn new stuff every day. So what is an IUL? Well, it's indexed universal life. So obviously it's life insurance. It's universal, which to make it simple would just say it lasts to the end of your life, right? It's a permanent policy. And indexed is just a strategy they use to grow the cash value. Just means it's in a safe account. It can only go up. It cannot go down. It can stay where it's at, but that's basically what it means. So in order to understand the strategy that they're using and why it's a good strategy, you have to know something about investments. And this is really the core reason why most agents are not selling a ton of IUL is because they're not being educated about the alternative investment marketplace. They don't know anything about 401ks. They don't know anything about 403bs. They don't know about Roths. They don't know about stocks and bonds and mutual funds. And so they don't even know what they're trying to compare themselves to or how the consumer thinks about these other things. And so they're losing all those breadcrumb trails that they don't have the ability to talk about or to compare to because they only have been taught how to do insurance because the insurance company and the agencies are not spending time on those other things because they're busy too. They're trying to focus on the 80-20 of what they need to do. It's not wrong. It's just that's why it's happening. Is no one's really being taught how to be a financial expert. They're being taught how to do insurance. Does that make sense? So, basically, your homework is for those of you that really want to get a black belt in IUL, is you need to study the other things that you're going up against too. And that's for, another day. So essentially the way an IUL works is the insurance companies, they got billions of dollars, they can afford the risk. They go and they buy options. And if the option performs, they get to set the rates of what the customer gets in terms of the participation. But if it performs, you get the positive without the negative, right? If it goes down, they take the loss instead of you. And so it's a pretty good bet for the consumer. A simple way to really talk about this is ask your prospect this question. I got a quarter. If the heads, you make money, tails, you don't lose money. How long do you want to play that game? Forever, right? Over and over and over as many times as you can. What if you made 10 cents every time it landed on heads and every time it landed on tails, you lost nothing? That's a pretty fun game to play. That's how you need to explain what indexing is. Because that's essentially what's happening. Why would somebody be willing to do that? Well, for a billion-dollar company, they understand other people's money, OPM. They want your money in their account so they can leverage it and use it to invest in things all year long. And they will do better with America's money in their pocket than if they have to use only their own money. That's why they're willing to take you up on this deal, because even if for everything that they lose on, they're going to win 10 times. And so obviously them doing this for hundreds of years allowed them to get to where they are, a multi-billion-dollar company. So in essence, that's what's going on with this strategy and why, because you're probably going to get prospects every now and then. They're like, it sounds too good to be true. Well, that's essentially the way that I would describe to them why it's not too good to be true. The insurance company gets a benefit out of it. The benefit is all the money that they don't have, that's you're spending on other things, they could leverage that and just keep it on the books, and it could be making more money for them. So the main things that you're going to get from an IUL is it's going to be tax free, it's going to be risk free. The best ones come with living benefits. There's some that don't come with living benefits. With the Shield, we personally don't sell those because it doesn't really cost more to get one that does, and it's just better for your prospect. One thing that not a lot of people talk about, I'll have the next time John's on, I'll have him pull out the walnut. So he's had this walnut for 25 years. Never seen the inside of it. Don't know what the nut on the inside looks like. But that walnut, that's the point, is you can't see what's on the inside. That's how it is for the IRS. That's how it is for anybody. And this is kind of bleak, but realistically, if you're driving down the road and you wreck into a school bus with a bunch of special needs kids and none of them make it, somebody might want to sue you. Well, if you have $10 million or $10 in your IUL, it doesn't matter. Nobody can get to that money. So it's also liability and creditor proof. Unless you owe like back child support, or unless you get a felony, those are kind of the only exceptions, right? And so how would you like to store your wealth someplace where nobody can get to it? No one really talks about this benefit, but guess what? How many of you guys know the true meaning of sell me this pen? The true meaning of it in its simplest form is that the reason why somebody would buy it is different for everyone. So if you're sitting across somebody who has a lot of money and they sleep well at night knowing that their money is protected, this might be something for them to know. This might be a talking point for you. This might be the main talking point that determines whether or not you get that deal. So for example, there's a girl that John was prospecting a year or two ago that she she got $500,000 in her checking account. Some of you guys would probably be jumping for joy you found one of those. right? Like, dang, I'm do all sorts of stuff with them. I'm gonna do an annuity and IUL. I'm definitely gonna give them the shield, right? Well, you know what she told John? The reason I have this 500,000 in my checking account is because that's what makes me feel good. I sleep better at night knowing that I don't have a penny more or a penny less than there in that. No matter what he said, he was not going to get her to do anything with that. Didn't matter how sexy the IUL is. She agreed with all the points that it could add value, but ultimately, people are going to do what they want to do. So you need to understand buyer psychology, right? So this is an example of you doing all the right things, and you can't say the right thing to the wrong person. Not because they're broke, not because they heard IUL's a scam, just because they don't feel like it. You're going to get some of those. But when you use the shield, when you take people through several meetings, you can just not have the last three meetings with them if you don't like the answers they give you on meeting one. Now that could be hard to do if you're not making the kind of money you want to make. You're gonna try to you're gonna try to close everything you can, right? So this is a paradigm shift. It's a psychology of not chasing everyone, not wanting the sales anymore. It's getting them to want you more than you want them. And it takes a little bit of a pipeline build up to have that. So let me know if that's helpful. If you want me to go deeper into kind of the basics of IUL. I don't want to hog all the time. I want to give, Fred some time to get in here too. You got some thoughts, Fred? So we'll probably definitely have to do another session to go deeper on how to structure these things and illustrations and all that stuff.
Yeah, I think that's definitely the plus, as far as tying in the marketing into the actual hands-on, like do a role play with somebody and ask them the questions and correlate that to the each of the different products, if you would, F and G or whichever one, because there's a few out there. And I think one of the biggest problems is people are like, which one should I write, or which one should I go to, or what's the structure of each of them, And I'd say that the biggest thing is when you write a IUL is you really need to know your client's needs. And if you don't know the client's needs or you don't know the proper questions to ask, you need to formulate those things prior to going in. So and setting up that whole meeting to let them know the things that you're going to be asking them because it's a little bit it's invasive, And if you set the perception of what's going to happen here and what you're going to ask them, I think it sets everything up to just kind of take you through that. And but definitely an IUL it should be something that you should embrace. It's like, hey, you know what? It's something that it has very unique components to it, and it really has something for everything. You just have to find that need. And it's kind of simple, definitely a hands-on approach, asking questions and correlating that to the actual application because the application is just tedious. It's not hard, you know. And if you're asking the questions, I think that would be it would really be good, for everybody to actually grab that, Nick, to be able to see that.
Yeah, for sure. I can send you guys a master class on just fidelity and guarantee has four different ways that you can structure the policy. There's four different correct ways to do it for just that one company, for just one product. And so, if we break that down, most of you guys don't know what post 72 and pre 7702 is, but back in 2021, I believe it was January 2021, they updated these things and they're way better now than they were the last 25 years. So all this stuff that a lot of people have been spooked about, IULs are bad, cash value, all this stuff, we're not even talking about the same vehicle anymore because of the updates. You can put more money in without having to add more to your death benefit. So for people that want max accumulation, it's just a way better vehicle. It's almost three times more efficient now. I think you used to be able to put in the ratio was like 1 to 5. Now it's like 1 to 9 for every dollar that you put in terms of how efficient these things can be. And then, so the number one thing you want to look at with, getting a policy for someone, especially if they have money, is the acquisition cost of the policy. It's like how much is going to be available in the first year. So for example, with National Life Group, the one that we use for the bank, the way that we structure it, they get 90% of the cash value is available. It's right there in the surrender value in the first year. You're not going to see that with almost any product across the industry. I mean, you lock yourselves, into a policy. This is why so many people get kind of frustrated, is because they're thinking this thing is super flexible because that's how the agent sold it to them. And then come to find out they put 10,000 in and they can only get access to 4,500 of it. You're like, what the hell's going on? Did I get scammed out of 6 grand? What happened? But it's front loaded, and all these companies are a little bit different. And that's where you really gotta, my suggestion for this, especially for a newbie, is not to go and master all the different 500 products, because realistically there's just too many and they change them all the time. You want to pick one or two to master so that it's easy for you to have deep domain expertise in that one product, right? And then we go to the strategy is why you choose a certain product. So for example, I think Pack Life and Nationwide, you can break even on your cash value versus how much you're putting into the policy a couple years sooner than like an F&G or an NLG even. But the living benefits aren't as good on those, right? And they use different participation rates in their indexes. They have different performance rates in terms of, has it performed at 10% or 12% the last 10 years. Some of them are as low as 5%. That's why they're putting those on the policy and showing you 6% illustration or whatever. So the one thing you got to know about the illustration is that it's wrong from day one. I mean, every day that it doesn't do exactly 6.46%, that it's just a roadmap to give your person an idea of what it can do, because it might do 6% one year and then 0 the next year and then 25% the next year. So there's no way in hell it's ever going to be exactly 6 for 100 years. It's not going to look like the illustration is wrong from day one. So with the Shield, we don't even really share an illustration with them because it adds so many extra questions and confusion and objections for them. Legally, you don't have to share it with them until policy delivery. I'm not saying everyone should sell that way, but if you know you're doing the right thing for them, it's a good way to avoid a lot of dumb stuff and get your time back. Don't
Hey, Nick.
questions they don't need to worry about.
One of the biggest things too is like giving you credibility, and is especially selling an IUL, is if you actually start filling out an application on yourself, is you'll see firsthand, some of the questions that they ask, and you're going to be like, oh, and then you'll know. It's like people have asked me, is like, why would you buy a IUL for children? It's like, why not a Gerber plan or something for education or something like that? Well, do you understand what's in that plan? Do you understand how it's set up, how you can actually utilize it, who the owner is, what the benefits of the owner of the policy is? You have kids that are, or people that are uninsurable and things like that. You have to look at so many different parameters. It's like, hey, I want to get a kid on. It's a kid should qualify, but they're like 400 pounds. Is that a good candidate? What do we do with that? And so just how to move things around, how to maybe, overfund somebody else's who's, a healthy person in a household versus somebody that's sick. There's quite a few different ways of actually doing it and having.
Hey, let me jump in, guys. I'm going to come at you guys from a standpoint of we got 40 some odd agents on here today, and a lot of them have lots of questions from, maybe let's just consider ourselves newbies. Now, I've been doing this for a long time. I kind of get it, but I'm going to role play that position with a bunch of our new agents on here. Okay. And I get exactly what Fred was talking about just then, because I think Jody last week or this week had a client that didn't qualify for an IUL or a term. So one of the options you might have would be to take an IUL on a spouse or on the kids, and then you become the owner of the policy, and then let the cash value build up, and then it kind of works that way. Sometimes you've got to do things like that, but we're gonna come at this thing from a standpoint of, hey, so Fred, this is for you. When a lot of us are selling either live transfers, we got leads coming in for veteran leads, we're doing final expense type of policies. Do we ever come across anybody in that sense that we would sell an IUL to?
Absolutely. You know, it's like we talk to grandparents every day, right?
Hmm.
And we talk to grandparents who are selling on final expense. We talk to, you know, I just asked them, it's like, so, you know, with this, are you buying this? Why are you buying this final expense policy? And they're like, oh, I just wanted to, you know, I do have a burial policy, but I just wanted some extra money because I have a couple of grandkids. I just wanted to leave them a little
Right.
something. Well, would you want them to leave them a little something, or the grandchild being so young, maybe, you know, that 50, 100 bucks, 80 bucks a month that you're going to spend on that, if they had an IUL in their name, you know how much further that would actually go to be able to not, I mean, to help them through their whole life, you know, from the majors, right?
Hmm.
Graduation, college, first
You,
home, you
you
know,
could take
things like
that,
that, you
you could
know.
take that and structure it to where you can not only help them, but you can show them the value of helping your kids or grandkids. Now, sometimes there are different types of policies. So if you look at F&G, they got a policy called Everlast, right? Everlast is kind of geared towards more towards the so a lot of times people want a whole life policy, but they want stronger cash accumulation in a whole life policy. And you can structure an IUL for an older client if you know how to structure it. But we don't want to scare everybody off here because maybe you're like, well, crap, I don't know how to do that. That's why we have professionals with the financial shield, right? Anything that Nick is telling us today, he can help you with. So if you are a little bit confused, or if you get a client and you don't know, man, what do I do with that? Give Nick a call. He's gonna set up a meeting with you guys and he's gonna walk you through it. We have the premier, the best people in the market working with Agents First and our team. So get with Nick and say, hey, what do I do? What about this? Because sometimes every case is a little different. Nick, am I right? Now, Nick, I'm going to ask you this question. Who is the best candidate? So if you were looking anywhere from 0 to 85, what is the person that you kind of see, hey, that's an IUL candidate? Who is that person?
Well, what we've seen is the highest premium cases over the last, 400 clients or so with the Shield is that age of about 45 to 55 with money. Like they make six figures. It actually doesn't matter too much if they have money stored away and they're trying to do a lump sum or not. It's more about the main thing we're looking for is do they have stuff left over at the end of the month, right? Or is there a way we can restructure their budget to where there is something left over? Because it's like with the bank. If you bank at Bank of America and you make 4,000 a month and you spend 4,000 a month, how much you got left? You got zero, right? But if you got a little bit left over, you have the potential of doing the banking. So that's the only thing with the bank is you got to build it, right?
Mhm.
But there are people that we don't do the bank on, right? I think John's got a story of a guy about 9 months ago. He did a bank. The guy wanted to do a bank, but he didn't make enough money, right? He would have qualified for one health wise. And so he's like, hey, you don't qualify because you don't make enough money, man. You're spending too much. And it wasn't worth his time to try to, figure that out for the guy. But the guy wanted it so bad, right? So, we always aim to educate them on what they can do, what's possible, what we'd like to do for clients. But sometimes people just can't do it. But, for someone that's young and healthy, like I just turned 30, um, $1,000, you could probably get all three products if you're young and healthy. I mean, you get a term for 30 or 40 bucks. You put two, three, four, 500 bucks a month away for retirement in IUL, and you turn around and run $1,000 a month through your bills. Maybe it costs you 1250 to fund the bank, and then you're pulling 1,000 back out. It really only costs you 250. So, I could probably do all three products for $600, but am I really going to have that great of a retirement if I'm saving $200 a month? Am I really going to have that fantastic of a bank if I'm only really, seeing compound interest on a couple $100?
And
So
so most of you guys on here wouldn't know how to structure it in the sense that he just explained, right? Because there's some detail there, and that's why we use the shield. They're going to help you structure that in that sense. So I guess if I'm getting anything out of this today, what I'm trying to tell you guys is don't get overwhelmed, because we have professionals on board that can help you with this stuff. Okay. Now, here's what the magic is. As you watch Nick and John and those guys start structuring and they do one or two for you, guess what you become? You start to become that expert. Now you can kind of learn how to do that. Maybe I don't need Nick next time because I can do it. But don't be afraid. We put these guys in place for that reason.
Yep, that's what we're looking for, guys. We're looking for at least 5 or 10 of you guys that want to step up, learn it quick, because then Carolina or somebody gives me a call, I'm sending them to James, right? Maybe I get 20 leads from another organization that week, and I'm like, hey, I can only take 5 of these. I send 15 of them. I distribute it between 5 or 10 of you guys. Everybody gets an extra deal a week or something, right?
Love it. And that was great training last night. If you guys aren't on our Thursday night trainings with the Shield, we're going to be posting that going forward. And I want you guys to start getting on those trainings. They had a speaker on there last night that just blew me away. But even before the speaker got on, I think, was it Clark? Is that his name? The first speaker, Clint, something like that. The police officer that anyway, he was
Alex. Yeah.
I can't remember his name anyway. You know him better than I. Anyway, the person that spoke prior to, he had some really good nuggets about the shield, the financial shield, and about living benefits. We know about living benefits, but man, he said something last night, and I took a picture of that screenshot and I put it in our group meet. And one of the things it said was, every 44 seconds, somebody in America has a heart attack. Every 44 seconds, somebody has a stroke. This is one that really got me. This is from the Cancer Society or whatever, the cancer, anyway, their program. It said the 6 out of 10 Americans live with a critical illness. 6 out of 10 Americans live with a critical illness. That was crazy, right? So if you had a policy, an insurance policy that gave you living benefits that took care of your critical illness, chronic or terminal, we have those carriers, guys. And if you could sell that. So as soon as I got off that call last night, Nick, I had that meeting at 8:30. So I got on there, and the very first thing I did, I'm talking to the lady, and here's what I said. And I got this magic from that call on Thursday night. Guys, I've been doing this a long time, and I still learn. I never quit learning. First thing I said to her, I said, so her name is Lorena, but she goes, Lorena. I said, Raina, if you had a heart attack, stroke, or cancer tomorrow, what would that look like financially for you? And I shut up. And she said, it would destroy me. I said, would? I said, could you pay your bills? No. Would you be able to go to work? No. I'm like, what do I do? Right? I said, exactly. I said, do you realize that every 44 seconds in America, somebody has a heart attack? Every 44 seconds in America, somebody has a stroke. And 6 out of 10 people in America are living with a critical illness. I said, Lorena, we've got to get that covered for you. Do you agree? She said, yes. I said, I've got a company right now that's not only going to give you $500,000 in insurance, but you're going to be able to pull $250,000 of that if you have a heart attack, stroke, or cancer that week, where you can start living on it. Like, is that what you want? She said, we need to do that. Boom. It was sold. Guys, I picked that up from that training I was on last night, and I used it. You got to, if you're not going to training, these trainings today are valuable. And every Friday we have these, every Tuesday we have them. But then on Thursday, we have the Financial Shield training. Lots of training. I can promise you one thing, Agents First and Guardian Gate, we are always going to be about training our agents firsthand and giving you opportunities. But if you're not on the trainings, yeah, you might miss out. I might have missed out on that big sell. I think we wound up selling that one, another policy, and we did about I think it wound up being about 1,700 AP, something like that. So it's a pretty good evening, one sell, one meeting. But we picked that stuff up from that. So Fred, so we kind of know our clients, right? We can sell many things to multiple clients, right? Let's ask. It just depends. An IUL, and the way I like to think of an IUL is this: it is insurance that can last a lifetime. Now, here's the problem: if you don't know what you're doing and you structure an IUL wrong, it is nothing more than expensive term insurance. Am I right, Fred? How many
Absolutely.
times have you come into a house and you've seen an IUL and it was structured wrong? And all
I've
it was
seen
an
IULs,
expensive term
yeah.
insurance.
I've come into houses where they're paying $1,200 a month. They've had an IUL for like 6, 7 years, and they've got like $3,000 in cash value.
Yeah.
And I mean, that just the math doesn't add up. There's
Yep.
something wrong there. So, I mean, it's things like that. If you don't know, and the people are they're sold on something, they grabbed onto just a little piece of what, they grabbed onto, which is really not reality. And so they're basically jumped in 7 years later, and they've been taken advantage of.
Mhm.
The reps made a great commission.
Yep.
There are things like the way IULs are. There's a minimum amount, there's a target amount, there's a month or modal amount or a monthly amount, and
Yep.
all those things have a significant meaning. And if you don't know those things or not taught those things, and you're not going to know, and you're not going to be able to look at it. If you don't have reviews or with your representative. We're talking about money that people are looking to retire with, or help their family and their legacy. And if you don't do a good job for them, guess what?
I,
You're really stealing from them, right?
You've got to structure it right. If you're not sure, use people like the Shield or people like Fred in our team and different ones. Go to your upline that knows IULs and ask them. Typically, I like max funding, minimal insured. And so here's the problem IULs have had in the past, and Stephen and those guys that have been here for a long time with me, and Bob, get this, right? The negative response that we've always got from IULs has been this. That you run out of money. I don't want to have insurance and then it runs out and I put all that money into it and when I hit a certain age I run out of insurance, right? So what happened to all that money? Well, that's because I'm going to tell you what happened. They had a bad agent that sold them a policy because of higher commissions. So what you want to do is you want to take care of your client. Always put the client first, right? Put them in the best place to win, but it cannot ever be about commissions. If you are on this team and you're doing it because of commissions, you probably need to find another team to be on because we're not about commissions. We're always about putting your clients in the best place to win. And if you do that, you're going to get referrals. You're going to get long lasting business. You're not going to get chargebacks and they're going to appreciate you. Always put your clients first. And sometimes that means writing on minimal insurance, maximum funding. Let that thing build and build and build. And Nick, am I right or wrong? You are the expert, not me.
No, that's right. That's right. So,
Stop, I
um,
swear.
the main thing is that it could look different for everyone. Like if someone really needs the coverage, for example, we might go with something that's an option A versus an option B. And if you guys don't know what that is, an option B is generally going to be more it's not going to give you as much face amount up front. But it's going to give them more cash for their retirement, right? So it's really understanding, and that's what we do with the Shield is we try to position things. We're like, okay, well maybe we do more with the bank, but you have less with the retirement. And we kind of play with things and move them around to see like what gives them the coverage that we're really looking for. Because some of these people, we're trying to give them 1 million or 1.5 million in coverage kind of spread out through a few different options. And so what you don't want to do, I mean, at the end of the day, yeah, a lot of people are looking this for max accumulation and retirement needs, but you definitely don't want to underinsure them either. I mean, at the end of the day, it's an insurance product, right? And so, the big thing with these carriers like Transamerica and Pac Life and Nationwide is they don't come with the same level of living benefits that the Fidelity and Guarantee and the North American and the National Life Group policies do, right? I mean, we got a client that she's actually an agent and she was diagnosed with 18 months to live like 8 years ago. She's still alive today. She's getting experimental treatment. It cost her like 20 grand every time. And we believe that if she was in like a Trans-American IUL, she would have had to wait 6 months from that diagnosis to get access to the money. She wouldn't have been able to get that treatment in time. She wouldn't be here with us, right?
Sure.
And so not all living benefits are the same. Not IULs are created equal. I mean, there are some companies that the max they'll let you get like a PIN or a Mass Mutual. You might only be able to get up to 250K even if you have $1 million policy. They might give you 50% of whatever you got up to a certain limit versus a National Life. You could have up to 2 million and you could have up to 90% of it. So but I'm not always looking at being gung ho on just those. But obviously, with the Shield, we're super big on living benefits. But there are other reasons why you might use another product for accumulation or something, and maybe able to give an extra bonus or lower, a lower fixed loan rate. There's a lot of different things you can kind of play with long term, and that's where you really got to study to become the expert. But I suggest you guys pick something as a baseline that you like and really learn that one or two products inside and out. That's the best way to go from being proficient at getting, not getting clients to being able to get a client and kind of do what's best for them. And the rest of it is just plugging into somebody that's further along than you and just doing some study time on your own.
100%. And that's it. And try, like even right then, Nick kind of told me like there are times, absolutely. So sometimes you don't always want to do maximum funding because you want to make sure that they've got enough insurance. Because when you're at a certain age, insurance is what you're living for. You've got retirement, but you've got to make sure you want to make sure that you're going to leave your family the legacy behind. But you want enough cash value to make sure the insurance doesn't run out. That's why we rely on people like the Financial Shield. They're the reason we wanted to broker with these guys and bring on experts. You've seen other IULs or you've seen other IMOs out there, and they have a team devoted for simple retirement solutions, whatever you want to call it. This is our SRS team. This is our simple retirement solutions team, the Financial Shield. We work with them. We partner with them because they are the experts, and they're as good or better than anybody I've ever heard. And they're going to know. So take advantage of these guys. Use them, not obviously take advantage of them. Use them, and then in return they'll be compensated well as well. So let's go to chats and see if you guys have any questions. And you have any questions right now? If you want to raise your hand, you want to comment. Stephen, you want to help me kind of figure out who wants to ask? We should have a lot of questions. So what are some of them? If you want to unmute, maybe.
I know James had one for a little bit.
Okay.
Go
ahead.
Hi, I have a question. I just heard Darren say you want enough cash value to make sure the insurance doesn't run out. What does that exactly mean? Does that mean the candidate has to put a certain amount of money into the policy every month, or otherwise they lose the IUL, they lose the insurance? And the other question I have is, what income bracket of people are you targeting for this type of product?
Nick or Fred, y'all jump in. Those are great questions.
Yeah, so the latter question is really pretty much people that make like 50,000-60,000 a year above make the best. There's some niche scenarios where you can get people, under that coverage, but I would say ideally if you want to use your time the best, talk to people that have a little bit more money. I'll kind of see Fred's thoughts on articulating the other one.
Yeah, the other one is like it's a cash value. So what happens is when you have a IUL, there's a certain money, right? In an illustration, you can see it, right? There's a minimal amount, there's a target amount, right? So the minimal amount and the target, is the cost of basically the death benefit, if you would. Then you have a target amount that has the death benefit built into a little bit of some cash value. Then you have a monthly amount, which is a higher amount that's from the target to that money. So we'll say $100 is the minimum payment, $150 is your target amount, and $350 is your monthly payment. So what happens is the difference basically between the target and their monthly payment is basically cash value, you know, just to simplify it. Um, and your cash value accrues. So if it's 150 to 350, that's $200 roughly, just numbers wise, that's going into cash. So as you go through life, right, and you have this cash value developing, if it's not structured correctly, right, there would be some cash value in there. And let's say you can't make your monthly payment. So the way IUL is set up is if you can't make your monthly payment and you don't make your payment, once it could easily move into a lapse state. Like if you had a term policy and you didn't pay your term premium, what would happen? It would lapse, right? Like right away. So an IUL has this cash value built in. So in the event that you can't make your payment, that money comes out of your cash value to be able to pay your policy. So what happens is you do have some recourse, and you might have two or three thousand dollars in there, and your payment might be $350 a month, right? You have what, 3 to 6 months, give or take, right, to be able to catch that back up, and you can. So that's the benefit versus just having a policy that you're like, oh man, I can't make my payment. I paid it for 3.5 years. I've got $7,000 in there, and now it's gone, right? It doesn't work that way in IUL.
Right. And
Does that
an
make-
IUL, if you were 30-year old and you paid $100 to an IUL, you're probably good because the insurance is only what, maybe $30 a month for, or whatever. But if you were 70 and you're putting $100 into an IUL, guess what? Very little of that is paying insurance. Where's your insurance? So as you get older, the IUL, the price of insurance goes up. So you need to have money built into the cash value because the cash value is what's paying for your insurance policy as you get older. And so if you're not putting enough money into your IUL, then the cash value side of it is not going to be enough there to pay for your insurance. So that's where it kind of runs out. So you've got to, that's what you say, structuring it so where you will always have, because when you guys know, well, I do, 70, 80 years old, $100,000 in insurance is not cheap, right? Or 200,000 or whatever you got. So you want to make sure you've got enough built up to pay for that higher insurance in that sense. Yeah.
Yeah, like a lady I had yesterday, she's 73 years old, right? And she's 73 years old. She's 5'5". She's 125 pounds, takes no medicine, right? I said, yeah, you know what? For IUL, you figure if you're 64 or older, some companies work differently, but my experience is if you're 64 or 65 and older and you want an IUL, you're gonna have to do paramed, right? You're gonna have to do the blood and the whole deal. And she was fine with doing that, right? And she said, but my budget's limited. I don't want to pay more than like $140, right? So a 73-year-old lady for a final expense policy, it was like $179 on this other program. So what I did was I priced her an IUL, right? She has her health is good. She can still qualify for IUL. She might have to jump through more hoops, but she had it was like $127, $30,000 IUL versus a final expense policy for like 170 something for like $15,000, you know? So you got to look at some of those things. And the way it is, it's not set up as an increasing benefit on IUL for her. She's 73, right? But what the benefits for her is you set that up as a level. So it acts like, it's basically a term policy, and she'll keep paying that. As long as she pays it, she'll develop a small amount of cash. But as long as she pays it, she'll have that till she's 121 years old or whatever.
Fred, can you turn them off at a certain age?
You can. You can pick and choose to turn off your payments, and basically you pick and choose how you want to do it. And the illustrations that are in there, it can say once you at this age you can stop paying, and you can start getting distributions off your money. And so you can set that up to be able to enhance your retirement. It may not give you, $5,500 a month, but if you have, with all the things that you've done to prepare yourself for retirement, if it was extra 1,700 and you had a lump sum cash as well with that and the ability to maybe diversify with an annuity, then you're winning. So, and just remember too is IULs participate in all the gains, and IULs do not participate in the losses. So anybody who has a 401k that's like, I have a 401k, yay, you're like, guess what? You're subject to market losses.
Yep.
The IUL is not because your money is not actually in the market. That's why they weigh the risk for insurance companies to be able to scrutinize you, They check your health because they don't want to basically insure somebody with an IUL and, take them to this point, because it's big money if you're not healthy.
Hey,
Um,
Fred, quick question,
go ahead.
Andy.
Can't ask
So
questions,
the
Andy.
question is like, can you differentiate between the level death benefit and the increasing death benefit, and what benefits our clients can have if they choose level death benefit? Like, should they front load the policy linked to level death benefit? Like, the client is about 37 years old, female.
I mean, honestly, I guess there's different strategies, but on a level death benefit, I don't think I would front load anything on a level death benefit. You know, somebody just put my cousin, you're my cousin. Um, yeah, I would want to increasing if you're gonna front load a policy like that, you can even I wouldn't go level because the amount of money that you increase on your in your policy, it's not set up that way. If you wanted to add money to it, I would definitely do that on an increasing policy. You know, because here's the thing on a level death benefit, if you drop lump sum cash into there, that lump sum cash will be in there. But if on a level benefit, if you pass away, you're going to get one or the other, right? You're not going to get both on a level. Does that make sense? So you're
Yeah.
overfunding something that you may not get all the money if you just walked out and died, that money's gone, right? It's like your beneficiaries aren't going to get that front-loaded cash on the level.
So I think on those sense, we use the shield and we ask them. So if you will come across clients that said, I've got 30, I had this happen not too long ago. I had $30,000 I want to put into an IUL. What do you suggest? And I'm going to call up Nick and the Shield, and I'm going to say, hey, let's visit with this client with me. Let's figure out exactly what is best for him. Because maybe there's an infinite banking concept in there that we can use and utilize. But once again, guys, if we get anything out of this today, I think it is we've got experts, so don't ever feel like I don't know what to do. We do have people now on our team that is working with us, right? And so we can utilize those guys. Here's what I think. We can ask to get a few more questions. I love this, but I think if you guys, Nick and Fred, if you guys are okay with this, we're going to take this to next week as well. But next week, here's what I want to do. I want to literally show you illustrations. I want to show you how to write an F&G policy. And Fred, you think that's something we might be able to do next week, you and Nick? Can we walk
Absolutely.
them through the process?
This is what I think everybody should do, though. I think everybody should just go in and you don't have to buy a policy, but at least do an illustration on a policy of an IUL. And even if you struggle all the way through it or whatever it is, just at least attempt it. And if you need some help, just call or reach out or put it in group me. Because if you put it in group me, somebody's gonna help you like really quick. It doesn't matter what time of day or night it is, everybody's like, ding ding. Oh, hey, Jody needs something or Chris P needs something or whatever. So I would definitely do that though, so you can get familiar with just kind of seeing, or then you write down, hey, I don't know what this was. I don't know what that term was. What does this mean? You know?
Good. Also, I've noticed you put on there, and I love this. Quality U have a very good training. Like I think it's very it's structured, right, in that training, and it walks you through an IUL process. If you want to know really how to structure and what is an IUL, go to Quality University. If you guys that have Quality, most of us should go to Quality U, and then do the IUL training before next weekend or next Friday. And then that way you kind of have a better idea about it because and Fred, that was good, wasn't it? Like the IUL training on there is very fundamentally structured to where it teaches you all about the IUL process.
Yeah, you know what I posted in there, like Monica Rosso, she put it in there too. And I guess what's the phrase on there? Unmute yourself and tell me what that was again.
Yeah, they think to keep it super simple for the layman, right? Because an IUL is a confusing concept. So just think of a life insurance policy married to a Roth IRA, right? So all the tax advantage, none of the risk, and you're not capped on what you can contribute. So you're definitely capped with a Roth. So you have all the benefit, none of the risk. So, and I've gone through and been certified with your training. It's great training. But with that being said, before I sat with Nick and John and Alex with the Shield, I didn't know about 4 different ways to structure that. And I've sold dozens of those policies myself over the last 2 years. Yep. And I'm like, So, I mean, the Shield is where it's at. These guys are pros at what they do for a reason. I will not write another IUL until I can be at their level. I will make sure I'm doing what's best for my clients.
Yep. Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
So yeah, you guys are in a good place to learn if you're brand new, because you're going to learn the right way from the very beginning. So awesome stuff.
Here, I love that. Very good. Thank you, Monica. And anybody else have a comment before we break loose? And anything you want to add to, maybe questions you want for next week that you want us to address? Now's a good time. Speak now or forever hold your peace. Okay. God, yeah, go ahead. Hey, Bobby.
For some of the people who don't have contracting with F&G, maybe we can get Jane to do that. Just put your name in the chat to see who Darren needs to contact with Jane to get contracted with F&G.
Yep. We got several carriers now with the Shield. We need you guys to be working on getting those contracts as well. Get with your upline and whoever your upline is and say, what is my next step? What carriers do I need? F&G is obviously one we need, but we need to make sure we get it underneath the Shield so that they can be working with us as well. So get with your upline and find out where you're at with contracting and make sure we're getting them in the right locations. And I know that gets a little crazy because we've been building this thing right for a while now, but we've had contracts here. Now we got the Shield come in. We need to move contracts over here. So how does that look? How do you transfer it over? And what can we do? So get with your upline and let's walk you through that process. And we do have contractors in place. Stephen and Bob hired somebody the other day to help them with contracting. Very much needed. We've got Jane on our side as well to help with contracting. So get with your upline and say, what's the next step on me writing IULs? Who do I need to have?